Once upon a time, there was an empire so vast, the sun never set upon its lands. From the frozen peaks of Canada to the golden sands of India, from the rainforests of Africa to the endless coasts of Australia, it was Britain that stood at the heart of it all. But how did a small island in the North Atlantic rise to rule over a quarter of the world's population? And how did it all come crashing down? This is the story of the rise and fall of the British Empire, a tale of ambition, exploration, power and consequence. The story begins not with conquest, but curiosity. In the late 15th and early 16th centuries, as the Renaissance ignited Europe, England looked outward. The seas became pathways, and ships became instruments of destiny. The Tudor monarchs, especially Henry VIII and his daughter Elizabeth I, gave England its first taste of global ambition. When Sir Francis Drake circumnavigated the globe and Sir Walter Raleigh dreamed of colonies in the New World, England's destiny began to shift from land to sea. By 1607, Jamestown was founded, the first permanent English settlement in America. It was small, fragile, and built on hope more than power. But it planted a seed that would grow into the mightiest empire the world had ever seen. Trade became the bloodline of empire. Sugar, tobacco, tea, and textiles all flowed through London's ports. The British East India Company rose, not just as a business, but as a private empire in its own right. Soldiers and merchants stood side by side, and maps were redrawn to reflect Britain's growing influence. But this rise came with a price. Indigenous peoples were displaced, cultures disrupted, and slavery became the dark engine that powered the early empire. The sun that shone on Britain's glory cast long shadows across the world. By the 18th century, Britain had transformed from an island kingdom into a global superpower. The phrase "Britannia rules the waves" was not just poetry, it was prophecy. The Royal Navy became the spine of British might. Wherever its sails appeared on the horizon, trade followed, and soon, so did conquest. From India to the Caribbean, from Africa to Australia, the red of the British flag spread like wildfire. In 1757, the Battle of Plassey marked the dawn of British rule in India. Under Robert Clive, the East India Company crushed its rivals and began a century of control over the Indian subcontinent. Meanwhile, in the Americas, the 7 Years' War ended with Britain claiming vast territories from France, but the cost of victory was high. By the late 1700s, the first cracks appeared. The American colonies, tired of taxes and distant rule, declared independence. The loss of the 13 colonies in 1783 was a painful wound. Yet Britain adapted. It turned its attention elsewhere, toward Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, expanding faster than ever before. In the 19th century, Britain stood tall, proud, and unstoppable. London became the beating heart of global trade, and the pound sterling, the world's currency. The Industrial Revolution fueled this rise. Coal, steel, and steam built ships and railways that connected an empire of unimaginable scale. At its zenith in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the British Empire ruled over a quarter of the Earth's land and people. The saying "the sun never sets on the British Empire" was not metaphor, it was mathematical truth. From Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee to the vast colonial administrations across Africa and Asia, the empire appeared eternal. Education, law, and governance spread, but so did inequality, resistance, and rebellion. The empire built railways in India, universities in Hong Kong, and trading ports from Cape Town to Singapore. It presented itself as a civilizing force, but beneath that veneer lay the truth of exploitation. Resources flowed one way, toward London, while colonies bore the cost. Still, for many at home, the empire became a source of pride. Poets, explorers, and statesmen spoke of destiny, of Britain's divine right to lead the world. Yet history would soon remind them that no empire, no matter how vast, lasts forever. The 20e century broke the fall. 2 world wars broke the backbone of empire. The First World War drained Britain's wealth and morale, while the Second shattered its illusion of invincibility. In 1941, Winston Churchill vowed that Britain would never surrender, and indeed it didn't. But victory came at a price. The empire that had once commanded the seas was now dependent on American aid. When the smoke cleared in 1945, a new world order had begun, one led not by empires, but by superpowers. Across the colonies, voices of freedom rose. In 1947, India gained independence, marking the beginning of the end. Soon after came the partition, the creation of Pakistan, and the domino effect of decolonization. By the 1960s, Africa, the Caribbean, and Asia were breaking free. The empire that had once ruled the world was dissolving, not in a single moment, but in the quiet realization that history had turned its page. Today, the legacy of the British Empire is written in both pride and pain. It gave the world the English language, parliamentary democracy, and railways, yet it also left scars of exploitation, conflict, and cultural loss. In modern Britain, the echoes of empire are everywhere, in the diversity of its people, in the Commonwealth of Nations, and in the very DNA of globalization itself. London stands as a crossroads of the world, the empire's final gift and its greatest contradiction. The myth of the empire, the notion of benevolent rule and civilizing mission, is now viewed through a more critical lens. Historians debate, artists reflect, and descendants remember. But one truth remains: the British Empire changed the course of human history. From a small island emerged an empire that conquered the seas, transformed the world, and then vanished into history. Empires rise, and empires fall, but their stories endure. And so the tale of Britain's empire is not just about power, but about people. About ambition, innovation, and the price of glory. This was the rise and fall of the British Empire. If you enjoyed this journey through time, like, share, and subscribe to Legends of Britain, where history comes alive, one story at a time. Fade out to distant waves, echoing cannons, and the whisper of wind over the Union Jack.